Change to the schedule means that the 16th Street Racing League, instead of going to Loudon this week, heads to Sebring in Florida, and with it to round number 2 of the International Light Technologies Road Course Championship. Hello again, everyone. Will Vincent in the Glacier TV booth alongside Paul Jenkins and Mark Schaefer this afternoon. And guys, Sebring is one hell of a tricky track, and these drivers have been struggling to find grip here today.
Yes, Sebring. Very fast, very rough, very tough on men and equipment. It's going to be a marathon today to see who survives.
And we're having a look at qualifying at the moment, and it looks as though half the field currently on track. The race control saying drivers with odd numbers are currently allowed on the racetrack. Those with even numbers have already completed their qualifying times. Having a look at Young O in the 23 machine, going a little bit wide there as he comes now down into turn number 16. About to come down at the long back straight away before turn 17 at the final corner of this racetrack. Trying to put his first qualifying lap in the books. You see there, the cones on the outside of the final corner. These drivers have got to be very careful to make sure they don't go outside of those cones. Otherwise, they may be deemed a race penalty. Young O coming across the line. He sets a time of 1 minute 44.144. That puts him only in the 8th position. Right now, your qualifying leader is Ricky Adatalo with a time of 1 minute 42.353. Young's last lap a little bit scrappy there, guys, but he's on another one and looking a lot faster through sector 1.
Yeah, especially with the last turn, the last sweeping right-hander. You were talking about the cones. There are many ways to take that, and you have to be very careful because first of all, it's extremely rough, and second of all, if you get just a little bit off, you can get tossed off into the wall or worse. And yeah, you can lose or gain a lot of time right there. So it's a place to watch, especially during these qualifying.
And the important thing is, these drivers, people like Young, set themselves back and kill up early. Now he'll try and pick up the speed. I mean, he is about 2 seconds off of Alatalo's pace. We expect him, however, to be right up there. We're looking a lot better through sector 2 there, Young, as he's now coming into sector 3. He'll sweep that car to the left once, and then once again, it's so fast through sector of the racetrack, and then just brake as late as you can. Hold the curbs all the way through the S, down now, running that off track a little bit, but nicely done now. Using the curb, and he goes off actually, so that will possibly invalidate his lap. Indeed it does. And Young O is going to have one more opportunity. He's only got himself about 5 minutes to be able to do so. So currently it is Alatalo out front, 1 minute 42.3, a 3 tenths of a second gap, 4 tenths of a second gap actually, to Istvan Bannout in second. In the 22 machine, Doug Leary is in third with Pat Dodson in fourth and John Grogan in the 5th position. Running through the rest of your top 10 temporarily, it is Gary Borkenhagen in 6th. Matthew Lambertson in 7th, Michael de Temple in 8th, Young O in 9th, and Carlos Melendez Jr. Running out your top 10. Big names, 30 drivers currently qualified have set a qualifying time out of 36 drivers eligible for this race. And you say, having a look on the track, you got Brad Sanford on lap, Kevin Kress as well. Chris Cahill coming down the back straight away with Tony Johns and Matthew Lambertson about 2 seconds ahead of him. Now Johns is going to get himself a little bit of a draft from Lambertson as he comes out the final corner. We'll see whether or not that helps his lap time, currently sat in the 17th position on the racetrack. Lambertson comes across the line, currently in 7th. He does not improve. Terry Johns also does not improve his lap time. A very slow lap there for Terry Johns. Cahill, as he comes across the line, he is starting another flying lap. He is currently all the way down at the 26th position, and Paul, that is not where we expect Chris Cahill to be.
Yeah, very surprising. Well, as we see what happens here during the race, but very disappointing for Chris. And pointing out, of course, that Istvan, no opportunity to counter-strike against Alatalo there, so Alatalo, it's his pole to win or lose, and sitting here watching Yang at this moment.
Yeah, having a look at Alatalo's lap time, say 1 minute 42.3 in qualifying. Actually, only did he did a 1 minute 42.005 in practice. Young was able to do a 1 minute 41 even, 0.308, so 7 tenths of a second faster than Alatalo's best time in practice, of course. However, these long straightaways, if you get into the draft of someone else, you can gain yourself a lot of time. Alatalo coming now down into turn at number 16 once again. He is currently on a warm-up lap by the look of it. In fact, if I take that back, it looks like he is actually about to set himself another qualifying time. We'll stay with him as he comes down into turn number 17. And nicely held there. You see just how much grip he actually has down into that final corner. He was a lot more solid, actually, and he goes off there at the very last moment. And that means that he will not get that lap time. And Anatola there lost out literally at the very, very last second. Having a look at Young, and Young is working his way on Sector 2 of this racetrack at the moment. This is one of the more slow technical parts of the racetrack, bringing it up to about 150 miles an hour, now back down to 80 miles an hour, and this is where you really pick up the speed now, Paul. But Young's got it all to do, and this is probably his last real opportunity to get a lap in, because otherwise he's going to have to commit to his next lap on what will be slightly worn tyres.
Yeah, this is going to be pretty much it for him. He may get an opportunity at one more, but the tires get a little slicker as you keep going. And this is the final turn coming up right here. Let's see what he does with it.
Up to about 175 miles an hour coming down into the final corner, exactly 175. You see they're taking a bit of a wider line compared to Anatola, but managing to bring it in nicely. He'll run all the way out as Anatola does at the final corner, but stay within the track, however, and he posts himself at 1 minute 41.744 to move Young O to the provisional pole position, and that is 3/10 of a second faster than Anatola has gone here today. Anatola, who's got himself a minute and a bit in order to get himself back to the start-finish line if he wants to do another lap. He is currently out on the racetrack. I need confirmation. I think actually he has got about 55 seconds just to make it back to the start-finish line. He's got traffic ahead of him. That is Brad Sanford in the 09 car, and Anatola has really got to pedal it now, because I think actually it's going to be remarkably close if he even make it back.
It'll be close. Of course, with Brad in front of Rico, if he times it right, he can get a bit of a draft off of him, but it's going to be a matter of whether he catches up and has to slow down, or if he can time it so that he actually can take advantage of this. Looks like he's going to reel him in before he's able to make anything of it, so let's see if Brad lets him by here.
Yeah, indeed. What he could probably want to do now is use that draft into the final corner. He's got himself over 15 seconds. It is going to be very, very close. Anatola will have to make the move. He will have to try and pass Savard, and see that he is doing so. If he doesn't let him pass, you see, we've got 5 seconds left, 4, 3, and it doesn't look as though he's going to be able to do it. It's going to be so close indeed. No, he doesn't. Anatola does not get the chance to start a new lap, and that will give pole position, by the look of it, to Young O. We're having a look, and indeed it is confirmed. Anatola misses the start-finish line by about 2 seconds there, and disappointment there for Anatola, but that does give pole position to Young O. We've got a couple of drivers still on the racetrack: Tony Johns, Chris Manifold, Joe Branch, and Tim Doyle, all circulating on the racetrack at the moment. Eric Davis in the 31 machine coming now out of the final corner. His fastest lap time is a 1 minute 44.283. In fact, he brings the car down towards pit road. Tim Doyle, he is currently down in the 18th position, working his way now down the back straight away. And Tim Doyle is another one of those drivers, Paul, who we really expected to see big things here today, but is struggling certainly down in the 18th position.
Yeah, he looks like he's on his last flying lap here. See what happens with this, but he's had some bad breaks with this qualifying attempts, and just can't seem to put the lap together. But we'll see what happens in the race. It is a long race. Note here from race control: looks like car number 20, that's going to be Pat Dobson, assessed a end-of-line penalty. He apparently was out in the wrong session.
It does, yeah, and that is going to be horrible for him. Having a look at Tim Doyle, however, and he does not improve. In fact, he does improve. He's up now into the 15th position, and Paul, starting grid, Young up front with Riccardo Tallo alongside him, Esteban Ballon in third. 3 of the best IndyCar racers that we currently have on the roadside.
Yeah, Esteban has this track figured out also, and of course Rico always putting on the clinic. But that impressive. That's a very impressive. Over a second faster than Rico. Oh, this is going to be interesting to see how this plays out at the start of the race. Of course, don't forget about Doug Learley, who's in 4th. He's put on some excellent showings at these road courses. I would not count him out at all.
Indeed, yeah. So what we're going to do, run through your starting grid for this, the fourth round of the 16th Street Racing League on Glacier TV, round number 2 of the International Light Technologies Road Course Championship. And it is Younger out front. As you say, he'll be starting this race from the inside of row number 1 with Ricky Adatalo alongside him in the second position. Isran Bala will line up in third position with Doug Leary alongside him in row number 2. Pat Dodson and Matthew Lambertson in row number 3 with John Gorgon and Gary Balkenhagen in row number 4. Mitch McCracken and David Sockrider in row 5 with Michael DeTemple and Joe Branch in row number 6. Row 7, Carlos Blandis Jr. and Eric Davis, Tim Doyle and Courtney Terrell in row number 8. Row number 9 is going to be Nefri Ag and Tony Johns with row 10, Al Nagy and Dave Jodson. The rest of the times coming up on your screen momentarily. And 3 drivers set a qualifying time. 3 drivers he didn't set a time. Terry Mattinson, Martin Miller and John Porzak. They will be starting from the rear of the field. And passing will be difficult here, so you do not really want to be starting that far down the pack.
Interesting to see that Porzak didn't even put in a qualifying time, nor Terry. We'll have to see what the reasonings. Perhaps they had some sort of mechanical issues with the car.
And so we're racing for 37 laps here today. And I think the important thing is, though, turn number 1. We have seen it so often in so many different cars. Turn number 1, you know, it's a very, very fast left-hander leading into a big braking zone for what is essentially turn number 2. And you've got to get it right. And, you know, there is some runoff area, but, you know, if you get a chain reaction, we could be seeing 5, maybe 10 guys out of this race very early on. So drivers are being warned about turn number 1 by race control at the moment. And we'll see how that one pans out. But when it comes to passing opportunities, you really got about, I'd say you've got 2 real opportunities. Down into turn at number 5. You've got that long right-hander. I absolutely hate that corner personally. And then, of course, down at the end of the back straightaway, that long 180-degree right-hander. But we have seen in the final corner, Paul, drivers have been finding it very difficult when it comes to grip today.
Yeah, it's a lot about setup here. You have to have the cars very soft in order to deal with the bumps without bottoming out or jumping around. On the other hand, that makes these cars very jumpy when you're in turns, and a lot of opportunity for these cars to step out. They were mentioning turn 1. You see here on the broadcast, very wide turn goes into a very narrow straightaway, and everyone just comes careening down into this braking zone. This is going to be an action-packed first lap, that's for sure.
So you see the iRace.com pace car is at the front of the field. These drivers currently working their way through sector number 1 on this beautiful 3.7 mile, 17 corner racetrack, as they set in the heartland of Florida. And Sebring has so much history to it as well. And it offers drivers 3 very unique sections of a racetrack called in 1. You know, turn number 1 is very tight, very technical. Then you've got that long, big, sweeping kind of like acceleration zone leading into that very tight right-hander. Sector 2 is really all about mechanical and aerodynamic grip. How does that car handle, you know, sweeping through some very fast corners? And then sector 3, a bit more of the same, but you have that very fast 180-degree right-hander to conclude the laps. Going down to pit road, Mark Schaefer, and Mark, it looks as though we've got a couple of drivers starting down from pit road here today. It seems as though, unfortunately, we haven't been able to get our Mark Schaefer for the moment, but 2 drivers by the look of it starting from pit road, Brad Sanford and Martin Miller. And all things considered, after we talk about turn number 1, well, that might not be a bad idea.
Yeah, well, of course, Martin's starting from the back of the field anyway, and Brad, I think he's thinking that what we're thinking. It's going to be a fracas in the first lap, and he's just going to sandbag in the back and wait for it to all figure out. I mean, there is a possibility too of a full course caution if it gets ugly enough on this track.
Indeed, yeah, and the last time we were on a road course, however, it was, you know, Young-O versus Ricky Adatalo. Adatalo came out on top. We asked a question on facebook.com/Glacier TV. Who do you think was going to come on top today here at Sebring, Young-O or Ricky Adatalo? And oh, won it by like just a hair. And the fans really are split here when it comes to making their mind up over who is going to come out on top. It is, however, going to be Young O, say, who'll be on the left-hand side coming down into turn number 1. Then you would have Alatalo on the right-hand side. Who do you think's going to take it?
Well, Young definitely has the better position going into turn 1. This race is all going to come down to precision and frankly, mistakes. Mistakes are going to dictate who's going to make it and who's not going to in this race.
And when we talk about mistakes, it's not just what happens on track, it's what happens down on pit road as well. And that is what caught Young O out last time out at Laguna Seca, supplying his car with fuel, and that was really what made the difference. The pace car about to make that hard right turn down towards pit road. The second round of the ILT Road Course Championship as part of the 60th Street Racing League is green. Alatalo gets a slow start. Young O gets a beautiful start there. They're streaming down into turn number 1. Ballout trying to challenge now as they come down. He will not be able to take second position away. The top 4 drivers, as they came down into turn number 1, it looks as though that Lamberton's been able to get around Gordon and Pat Dodson and say he had the penalty. So Lamberton up into the top 5. It looks as though everyone, though, has for the most part been able to get through turn number 1 okay, but they are bottlenecking it down into turn number 2 now, and a lot of cars actually deciding to take it down onto pit road at the start of this race. But I have to say, Paul, those drivers are very, very courteous. They came out of turn number 1, even though we've got ourselves a big bottleneck now on the middle straightaway, I'm going to call it, as they come down into the hairpin.
Very clean start. We were expecting much worse, but I think everybody was very aware of what the problems were, and took it real easy on each other. But looks like the racing has definitely started in the front here. Young's got about maybe a half a second on Riku, but it does look like he's starting to make some ground.
Indeed, but when these tyres warm up, that is when you're going to get your optimal grip. About halfway through the first lap, yes, Young did get better starts. The Carlos Velez Jr. around in the 82 machine. Doesn't look as though anyone else was involved in that. That's Velez Jr. to say, in the 82 machine. That was down, I believe, into about turn 13. Just caught the bump the wrong way and then caught the sand on exit. Spun the car, didn't hit anything, so he is fine for the time being. Back out onto the racetrack with nothing more than a bit of a bruised ego. But as they complete lap number 1, it is Young O, your race leader, coming out the final corner. Alatalo will be in the second position, and Ballout in third, Doug Leary in fourth. We apologise if the scoring is showing something slightly different there. But it's Alatalo in second position, Ballout in third, Leary in fourth, Lamberton rounding out your top 5. But you're right though, the gap is only 7 tenths of a second as they completed lap number 1.
Appears to be about the same too. Yang and Riku at this point running about the same speed. Looks like Riku's making a little bit of ground here, but it's a give and take. It'll be interesting to see if Riku, once he gets his tires warm, he'll make any sort of charge on all.
Indeed, so currently working their way now kind of in the middle of lap number 2 of 37. Got an interesting battle going on right down in the midfield. Jason Dunphy, Al Nagy and Dave Judson. All these drivers, you know, they race on road courses, but they're more oval specialists. They're currently, say, fighting for 17th, 18th, 19th position on the racetrack. Dave Judson overtaking Nagy at the start of this lap. And we've got ourselves a battle as well. Tony Johns, Eric Davis, Tim Dahl and Nefri Ag. And let's not forget, Nefri is actually our championship leader coming into this race. And he will want to just have a very clean, simple race here today. He doesn't want to put anything off track to hurt his chances, because he needs good road course finishes to go with his kind of over domination at the moment.
I was going to say in the pre-race, but of course didn't get an opportunity. There's so much to talk about here in so little time. Nefri's interest definitely to stay clean, stay alive, not make any trouble, and just try and work his way up the field. And the most important thing for him is just to get through this and move on.
So you see, it is still the top 5 as it is. Jason Dunphy has moved back at the start of this race. He started this race in the 18th position, now running down in the 22nd position. But it is Young O, your race leader. The gap, however, is down to 4 tenths per second between himself and Alatala. And they have, in between the two of them, pulled out a 3-second gap over Istvan Ballout in third. He's about a second ahead of Doug Leary in fourth. Matthew Lamberton in fifth, about a second and a half back behind Leary. Having looked through, everyone is still circulating on the racetrack. We have no retirements at the moment, and after everything he said about turn number 1, it seems though, you know, everyone got through okay.
Yeah, very, very courteous driving through the turn one. Everybody is very aware of how dangerous that turn is, so I think pretty much everybody decided it was better just to get through there and then take on the charge. Watching back here in the field here, 10th, 11th, and 12th, there was 12th, 13th, and 14th rather, and even 15th. We got Tony Johns, Eric Davis, Tim Doyle, and Nefriog are all within a battle with each other. A little spread out at the moment. They were all over each other for a little bit.
Indeed, and this is what we're into the stage of the race now. First couple of laps are in the books. It's just ahead of Tony Matinson there, battling for position, and that is Todd Bettenhausen trying to work around Courtney Taylor. These two are very good friends, but also fierce competitors. They are battling right down the field like for what's essentially 31st position on the racetrack. But now these first couple of laps in the books, it's just a case of let's see how much we can get out of our car. If we can close to the car behind, great. Let's see if we can work up a pass. If not, let's try and preserve our tyres, perhaps save a little bit of fuel, and see if we can use strategy in our way. And Italo, though, now he's behind Young O. He's kind of in that dirty air, about 5 tenths of a second behind. Oh, he's finding it difficult to really stick with him. That gap is now back up to 6 tenths of a second. And that dirty air effect at a track like Sebring really does play into effect. And it looks as though O's running a little bit less wing than Anataro right now.
Alatalo finding that when he gets close, it's hard to make a move. That's how this track is. Very fast, a lot of aerodynamics. And the way these cars have been engineered with the changes lately, they have made some changes in the last week to address the overheating issue on ovals. Of course, that wasn't much of an issue on these road courses, but what has made a bit of a difference is the aerodynamics. Looks like Young had a pretty bad braking there and was able to give up some space to Riku, but not enough for Riku to make take advantage.
So currently working ourselves on lap number 4 or 37 here, and the top 5 are exactly the same as it's been since the drop of the green flag. If you're wondering what happened to Pat Dodson, he was the driver who was penalised for being on track at the wrong time. And having a look where that 20 machine is at the moment, he's managed to work his way up into the 19th position, and he's only about a second and a half, 2 seconds behind Al Nagy at the moment. And Dodson, we really expect him to charge his way up into the top 10, and he's going to be furious in his helmet right now.
He's got a lot of work to do. This is going to be a very long day for him, and he's going to need, his strategy is what's going to help him. He needs to figure out a strategy that's going to help him move forward. Does that mean conserving fuel? Does that mean just driving fast and trying to get around these guys? We'll have to watch and find out.
We indeed, that's in having a look, and Brian Simpson passed Randy Crosney just then in the battle for the 22nd position. And Randy Crosney, we always give him a lot of stick on Glacier, but he's one of those drivers who's really been improving on his road course abilities, waiting for the time when, you know, a series where road and oval courses are going to be required to be able to be successful. And Crosney's making himself some good progress at the moment. I see that Dave Judson, he's going to try and make a move on Tim Dorr to come down the front straight away. Tim Dorr is looking defensive, but it's a job done already. Dave Johnson is going to take away the 15th spot by the look of it from Tim Doyle coming down into turn number 1. Tim Doyle yields, falls back into 16th, and a beautiful pass. But in fact, I say that Judson goes wide in turn number 1. Tim Doyle takes a place back.
Well, I was about to say it was a fine pass, but you have to complete it. I mean, if you burn it in too fast, look exactly what happens.
You never, ever want to push that car too much in turn number 1. There's a very finite level of grip, and as soon as you kind of like go 5 miles an hour faster, you're never going to make it on the exit of the corner. Johnson, however, is setting himself up to try and make a pass once again, perhaps at the same point on the next lap. Out front, it is still Youngo, your race leader, in the 23 machine with Ricky Alatalo in second. It's Van Balen in third, Doug Leary in fourth, and Matthew Lamberton rounding out your top 5. And everyone's still on the lead lap. Having a look at Martin Miller down in the 36th position, and unfortunately it looks as though he is going to be our first retiree. Pulled the car down into pit lane at the conclusion of lap number 3. Just trying to have a look, and it doesn't look as though he had any damage to the race car, but he was perhaps a starting part for today.
Just a bad day for him. As we said before, he had not qualified. Just problems all day long. And finally just decided to pack it in. Meanwhile, Pat Dobson moves up another space with Karszewski down. So Pat Dobson now in 17th.
Indeed, and having a look through this field as well, it's starting to get a little bit of separation, that separation that people really do need. But Mitchell Crack and Michael DeTemple having themselves a nice battle on the racetrack, the 1 and the 66 machine respectively. And I'd have to say, apparently there's been a crash on the racetrack. Esteban Balau in the wall. And it just looks as though it was down into turn number 1, trying to figure out exactly what happened. It looks as though Balau was on the inside coming into the corner. He looks like he went wide in the final corner. Doug Leary made the move down to the inside, wasn't able to fully complete the pass. Balau holding on the left-hand side, coming down past the start-finish line, and Balau then, as they come down into turn number 1, takes a very, very tight entry. The car's snapping a little bit on him, but as they come out of the corner, it looks as though Doug Leary just kind of touches the grass and it spears his car sideways. Nothing there that Esteban Balau could do.
What an unfortunate turn of events. This fan was just running a nice, clean race, and I think Doug just caught the grass a little bit, took it a little wide. This fan tried to make the move, but bad luck for him.
Indeed, and you know, it's nothing that Esteban could have done, and also in many ways, you know, it was just unfortunate there, because there's nothing really that Louis did wrong himself. He just made one himself, one of those characteristic mistakes. We saw it with Dave Judson just a couple of laps ago, saw what happened to him, and he unfortunately ruined someone else's race without intending to do so. Having a look back through the field, however, that of course does promote Matthew Lamberton up into the 4th position for the time being. It is Young out front. Having a look down the field for the time being, the Temple and McCracken very close now as they come out the final corner. The Temple has been stuck there on the rear wing of the 1 car ever since the drop of this green flag, but really hasn't been able to find a way past. And it just looks as though McCracken get a very good drive out the final corner, which enables him to keep that position all the way around.
Yes, indeed. Exactly what we're looking at here is a spirited battle, but, you know, getting there and making the pass, 2 different things.
2 different things, always the case, as they're working their way down now this kind of very tricky infield section of the racetrack. And the Temple, you see, doesn't get very good drive off the corner. And by the time he gets to a point where he can really use the drive, the straightaway's over, and it really does affect him. So he's coming down very, very slow, very close as it should come into the hairpin. But again, not able to do anything. He's going to have to hope that Mitch McCracken makes a mistake at some point in this race. But McCracken, known as one of the smoothest drivers in the IndyCar community at the moment. David Shockrider being able to put out a bit of a gap now in the position from the 9th position over Joe Branch, in turn slightly catching Gabe Balkenhagen. And I'm a bit concerned here that if McCracken carries on with his being slightly off pace, he's going to end up with a 5-car train, McCracken to Temple, Balkenhagen, Shockrider and Branch, looking as though they could be in a 5-way battle for the 5th position.
McCracken is an expert at keeping. Oh, McCracken just brought a little wide there and brought Balkenhagen right back in. Looks like maybe McCracken, I was about to say, he's very good at keeping cool, but it looks like he's pushing. Well, it looks like he's really pushing that car. He
really is pushing that car, and it's kind of uncharacteristic for McCracken. We know he's a very good, solid driver. Unfortunately, it just looks as though today he's just not got the speed to get the job done, but he's still sat. He's in position, and McCracken is doing a sterling job of holding these guys up for the time being. Al Nagy's down on pit road from the 36th foot from the 35th position. I'm trying to see, he has got some damage to the front of his car, and that looks like it was probably a single car incident. We'll try and get confirmation on that one. But we have currently got 2 retirees out of the race. Esteban Balau currently went in 35th position, and Martin Miller. Al Nagy will be classified by the look of it in the 34th spot, and it was down by the look of it at the hairpin. I'm trying to get confirmation of this. Yeah, it's down at the hairpin. It looks as though Al Nagy just got that car onto the grass once again. And the grass here is very much like Laguna Seca a couple of weeks back. You get, the car onto the grass. You've really got to be precise of how you get back off it. Otherwise, that car won't snap off of you. And you've really got to be careful getting onto the power.
And it depends on where you are in the track. Some places, there's a lot of dirt and dust. And this is really sort of 2 tracks in one. You've got the portion that they're on now, we're watching Temple work his way through, and you've got the concrete, which is extremely rough. And you set the car up for one and it's not good in the other, and you set up the car for the smooth portions and it's not good in the rough portions. It's a balance with this car, and you can definitely tell, say for instance McCracken, he's got his car set up probably a little bit stiff, working great on the smooth portions, and he gets on the rough parts and he starts having real problems.
Checking in on your race leader, Young O, in the 23 machine. He's now pulled out a 3-second gap over Ricky Anatalo in that battle for the first position. Anatalo's last lap, a 1 minute 43.601. And it's not that Anatalo's really dropped off the pace that much. He is about, about a second slower than he was previously in the race. It is just the fact that Young O is set in the last 3 laps, 3 fastest laps of the race. And right now, O is on the charge.
Over a mile an hour faster, or rather over a second faster than Riku per lap. We'll have to watch and see what O does here.
And for O, it's just a case of, I think, that he's managed to get this track down. He had difficulties a couple of weeks back at Laguna Seca, and I think, that mindset of being beaten by Anatalo in qualifying really did affect him all the way through the race. Here today, he's out front, he's in clean air, and he's just being able to dictate the pace. And you see him just turning the wick up, a tenth of a second faster here, a couple of tenths of a second faster there. And it looks like he's still driving completely into comfort range. If you have a look at him attacking the corners, very smooth driving styles for the 23 car, and that's exactly what that young man needs.
You're going to have to keep it very smooth, and again, we saw it in Laguna Seca. Of course, this track a little bit larger, but running into traffic, that's where mistakes happen. Well, you start running into traffic, and you think they're going to go one way, they go the other way, and before you know it, things change.
Having a look at battle for the 16th position, a freeway battle in the battle for the 16th position, and this is between Dave Judson, Tim Doyle, and Brian Kosaski in the 56 car. And we haven't talked about Brian much in this race, certainly newcomer into the series, but holding his own around the likes of Tim Doyle and Dave Judson at the moment, and doing himself a good job. Currently sat down in that 17th position.
Made a little bit of a mistake just then, got it up on the curb and had to fall back a little bit, but able to come up and put the pressure on Tim, and I think Tim is going to have to. Tim's playing defense at this point as well as trying to make a move on Dave, so he's driving the mirrors as much as the front.
Yep, and I think he's really doing a sterling job there, you say, down at the 17th position. And let's not take anything away from him, because, he's got Tim Doyle, Racing.com Indianapolis 500 winner, and Dave Judson, who really has proved himself to be one of the up-and-coming, as Tim Doyle gets very sideways into turn number 1. This is going to allow Brian to have a look down to the inside. He will complete the pass into 2. Tim Doyle trying to make it difficult for him. He knows he's going to have the next line into the corner, and Brian just pushes his way through. He doesn't care. Tim Doyle's spinning it now, willing to keep it out of the tyres. Just a slight glance there. I'm not sure how much damage he's going to get. But Tim Doyle, he tried being aggressive and it just didn't work for him. You can't get 2 cars into those corners. And it just looks as though Tim just put the power down a little bit too early, trying to gain some momentum back.
Oh, unfortunate. It's, you push too hard here and you get punished. Also, just a point of note here, Pat Dobson on the move again, up to 12th, it looks like. Having put away Eric Davis and I believe Tony Johns.
Yes, I'm not sure whether Dodson or not classifies for a hard charge award after starting from the rear of the field, but he's definitely working his way up. And that's the sort of thing that 20 car is going to want to see, trying to get himself into contention to fight for the top 10, as we're currently working now on, say, Tim Doyle's got some damage to his race car. It does look as though he really is damaged, cannot put the power down. But we are now working on lap number 11 of 37 here at Sebring. You are watching Random 4 of the 16th Street Racing League on Glacier TV, presented by International Light Technologies. Your race leader is Young O. The gap between himself and Ricky Alatalo is 3.2 seconds on the racetrack. And then the gap from Alatalo to Doug Cleary is 14 seconds, with Lee in third, a further 5 seconds ahead of Matthew Lambertson in that battle for the 3rd position. John Grogan is rounding out your top 5, with Michael Temple in 6th, Mitchell Kraken in 7th, Kay Bockenhagen in 8th, Steven Suckrider in 9th, and Joe Branch rounding out your top 10. I tell you what, Joe Branch is doing himself a great job in that 10th position. He's trying to close himself down to what, as I said, is now a 4-car battle to Michael Temple, who has got himself around Mitchell Kraken, by the way, in that battle for the 6th position. And then it's, say, McCracken, Volkenhagen, and Sockrider. But now that Temple is ahead of McCracken, he's pulled out about a 1.5-second gap over these past couple of laps.
Been working a long time on that, and finally was able to make it work.
And I think, though, that, when it comes to that battles, those rivalries, you know, you talk about McCracken and Temple, they've had some great battles on the racetrack. You're taking them both out of their traditional comfort zone, but it's kind of the hidden secret that both are very good on the road courses. And when you think about the overall championship picture, it's almost the case that they want they're kind of very dark horses because they're very good and competent on both. You know, it seems weird to Indianapolis. You have to think along Young O and Tim Dorr of Mitchell McCracken. Michael Temple really showing himself to be a key figure on the oval side of racing and the road side of racing over these past 6 months or so. And these are two guys right now who are having to drive with their heads to rack up those championship points. They don't care about the fact that, you know, Alataro and Ori are ahead of them because they know as soon as it comes to the oval, the status quo might change a little bit. And I think that right now the Temple and McCracken are doing a great job in 6th and 7th positions respectively.
Well, it doesn't look like they're settling. Mitch and Michael both definitely pouring it on. They're not going to settle for this. I think they're really going to try and charge forward as far as they can, and they're making very good laps. But the point you make, you think Mitch McCracken and Temple, you think oval specialists, so a very fine showing. Of course, Yang O, two-time champion this last season, of course, at the season 3 Indies. Indy race and the ISOWC Indy 500, putting on a very dominant showing of both of those races.
Yeah, and you know, you talk about we have to look forward to the big races of this season. We've got the Triple Crown coming up, you know, Pocono, Indy, and Michigan. I think out of those 3 races as well, I think O is definitely going to be. O and Tim Dorr are going to be the ones to watch there. But you've got those dark horses we've talked about all season long. People like the Temple, people like McCracken, people like Nefriarg, Joe Bryant, Pat Dodson, and the old guard as well. People like Tim Holgate, who we haven't heard or seen in so long now. But they're right back on the pace once again. Unfortunately, Tim Holgate isn't able to race with us today. I know you're watching, so very good evening to you, Tim. Having a look through the racetrack, however, checking on Matthew Lamberton, and it looks as though he is just trying to manage that gap to John Gorgon in at the 5th position.
Keeping pace at this point, not really pushing, just sort of pacing along. I just watched McCracken get real loose in the carousel there, and it looks like Borkenhagen is closing in on him. We'll have to keep an eye on this. One name you didn't mention that we should talk about, Doug Learley, definitely putting on excellent results, and he'll be the one to watch. Very strong on the oval and incredibly strong on the road courses.
Having a look in the tour for the 11th position. This is Pat Dodson trying to work his way now on Nefriarg, and in fact he has been able to pass Nefriarg just a couple of corners ago, and that was down in turn number 1. You saw there Nefri, one of those drivers, racing with his head once again here today. He knows that he needs to think of the bigger championship picture, and he really did just let Pat Dodson go past there. He saw how quickly he came. There's not much point in trying to hold him off in case the two came together, but Dodson now looking as though he really can challenge for the top 10. Just 5 seconds now behind Joe Branch in the 15 machine, who's currently sat in that pivotal 10th spot. And when we talk about these races, you know, you first of all try and go for top 20s, but then top 10, top 5s is what these drivers really want to aspire to.
The better the finish, the better. Yeah, Dobson definitely a man on the move, and earlier we were talking about what strategy he's going to employ, and I think we have your answer, Will. Hit that loud pedal a lot.
Yeah, you have to hit that loud pedal, and that is the thing. And having a look for the field as well, drivers who we haven't talked about much in this race. People, for example, like John Goke started this race down in 22nd position. He's managed to work his way up 5 spots, now sat in at the 17th spot. Brian Simpson, he started this race in the 24th spot, now up into 18th position. Jason Dunphy, he's having a difficult day though, and we expected Dunphy to be a little bit further through the field in that 24 Aero X racing car. He started this race in the 23rd position, is only managed to work his way up into 19th. So Dunphy having a difficult day here today. To give you an update on retirees, it's Martin Miller out of the race. We saw him just bring that car down onto pit road. It's from Banner had that incident with Doug Cleary while battling for the 3rd position. Al Nagy had some damage to his race car after an incident in the hairpin. Courtney Terrell is out of the race. John Porzak is out as well. Todd Bettenhausen and Kevin Kress are currently scored 1 lap down. We have 29 cars on the lead lap. Randy Crosno is the last car on the lead lap, and it looks as though he is just a couple of seconds away. In fact, he has already been put 1 lap down.
Yeah, already getting into lap traffic here. We're at lap number 14. Yang O, of course, we know, put on a blazing pace. Riku, it's like about a little over 4 seconds behind at this point. Fight on the track at the moment looks like it's between like Sockrider, Borkenhagen, and Mitch McCracken. Of course, Joe Branch kind of trying to get into the action a little bit here.
Yeah, I'm say McCracken, you know, he had some very good pace early on. McCracken, let's not forget, he started this race in that one car up in the 9th position, managed to get himself up, originally 3 spots, now down in the 7th position. He's got Gary Borkenhagen behind him. He's kind of in that dirty air, about half a second behind. And Borkenhagen starting where he qualified. He started this race in the 8th position, currently working in the 8th position, trying to look down to the inside into the final corner. Not able to get close enough. And I think for Borkenhagen right now, I think he just needs to set up that pass a little bit better, because he made a bit of a half-assed move there down into the final corner. And you're not really going to make a pass unless you're already alongside him as you come down on to the second half of that back straightaway.
Indeed, we're getting some information from race control that there was an incident in turn 1. I'm looking for some information on that now. I'll get right back to you.
Yeah, and we believe it was a 3-car wreck. And this was the battle for what was the 21st position. The 82 machine, we believe, is involved in that. And that was Carlos Bolaños Jr. We talked about how he had a spin earlier on in this race. But we're having a look to see what happened to him. And it was down, into turn number 1. And Bolaños Jr. looking as though he just lost that car all by himself, getting his car. And again, he didn't actually hit anything. But then as that was going on behind him, you had Giorgio Ponte trying to slow down. And Ponte in the 00 machine. And as he tried slowing down, Dave Jinks behind him just rear-ended him. And once again, though, Carlos Bolaños Jr. avoiding a bullet. But Dave Jinks and Giorgio Ponte looking as though that they are going to have serious damage and may be out of the race.
Bad luck for Dave Jinks. Seems to always be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Very accomplished driver, but unfortunately just keeps getting caught up in stuff.
Yeah, of course, Dave Jinks driving in the Broken Arrow machine. And I have to say, I've known Dave for many, many years now. And when we talk about Dave, he's always been one of those drivers who's really worked his way up to the position where he is now, you know, a very talented and competent driver. He knows his stuff on both road courses and ovals. And in fact, I'd say he's leading the ISOWC Championship coming into their final round at Michigan. And he's really been committed to this car for so long, and it's just really unlucky. Himself and Ponte have had some great battles on the racetrack for many a time now as well. Unfortunate for that to end up that way for him. Having a look at Bolaños Jr., I'd say the lucky man still circulating on the racetrack with a bruised and battered ego, but he is now really further down the field in the 22nd position, about to go 1 lap down, as Zhang O is just a couple of seconds behind him.
And Will, we're watching a real good fight here between Simpson and Dunphy. It appears they were too wide going down the backstretch here. Now they're getting up. Whoa! Look out! It looks like Simpson just lost it, and Dunphy will be able to make some space there.
Yeah, and that was right down on the exit of the final corner, and there is a big bump there. You saw Simpson catching that bump on the exit of the final corner, just really unsettled the car, and Simpson very lucky to get that car back pointing in the right direction, but does lose position to Jason Dunphy, and now Dunphy is now up into the 18th position. Brian Simpson relegated down into the 19th spot. Ticket ahead of them, you've got yourself, say, about a 5-second gap to Jonathan Goke in the 08 car. He's currently riding in the 17th position. He is trying to close down Brian Clarksey in the 56 car, and looking as though he's gaining about 0.8 of a second a lap. And at the same time, he is losing time to Dave Judson. So looking as though we might have ourselves a battle for the 16th position coming up at some point soon. Borkenhagen is a lot closer, though, to the rear of Mitch McCracken in this battle for the 7th position. But again, making a kind of half-patch attempt into the final corner. Very good drive out of it, though.
Yeah, I'm watching a little further back, too. Back on the Pat Dotson story. Made a real big charge at Sockrider. He put Joe Branch away, so Dotson to 10th now, and was up alongside Sockrider through the carousel into the straight of the front stretch. But again, that bump. There you go.
I had to ask, why 180-degree corner in America is known as a carousel, but hey, we'll find out perhaps another day. And you know, now he's into the top 10. He's got those two cars battling for position ahead of him, as well as Sock Rider. So, could Dodson be looking for a top 5 finish here?
He's putting us up, that's for sure, and he's making the move, and looks like he's right up against Sock Rider now. Sock Rider, a terrible turn there.
He did, and you see that 2 riders are going down into the corner. And Sock Rider has looking as though he's going to have to see the position. It's going to be very close, and Dodson thinks better of it. But once again, Sock Rider going wide, and this is going to allow Dodson as he goes wide a little bit there as well. So as this is all happening, they're just allowing the 2 drivers ahead of him to gallop away just a little bit. But Dodson had a key opportunity there to try and pass Sock Rider, and himself made a mistake on the racetrack. That puts him back about half a second behind. But as they're working away now down into the S, Dodson is going to have to get a very good drive coming into the final corner and try not to make that same mistake once again. We're keeping an eye on this battle on the racetrack. This is to say for 9th and 10th positions on the racetrack. Dodson, a very good drive there out of turn number 16. Now they're going to work their way down that long back straightaway. And as they come down into the final corner, you see that the concrete changes just a little bit as they come into the corner. Dodson taking a very tight angle, Sock Rider at a very wide angle. They come together almost there out the final corner. Will Dodson try and make a move as they come down the front straightaway? You see both drivers there trying to work on the left-hand side. Sock Rider being a little bit defensive there as Dodson setting himself up nicely. Is he going to make a pass into turn number 1? Indeed, and he will possibly complete it there. Indeed, he does. Sock Rider yielding the position and move Pat Dodson up into the 9th position.
What a great move by Dodson to make that pass in that first turn. It is extremely bumpy in the inside part of that turn. You saw the car just dancing around at the edge of grip, and it looks like Dodson's going to pull away now. Hopefully, it definitely looks like he's got the faster car. And again, Sock Rider was not going to give up easily at all. Very competitive driver.
Indeed, having a look for it, and it looks as though Dodson's lap times, now he's ahead of Sock Rider. He should be able to reel in that battle for what is 7th and 8th position on the racetrack. Having a look at Borkenhagen, he's still in that dirty air. But this is the thing, it's like, you know, we talked about how the Temple was stuck behind McCracken. He's not that much further ahead. He's only pulled out a gap of about 4 seconds, and that's because McCracken's defending really from Borkenhagen quite heavily. You know, I think if McCracken was in clean air, actually he would be able to do lap times very similar to the Temple and Borkenhagen around him, and these drivers fighting for position as Young O is on pit road. I have to interrupt myself there. Young O, the first driver really to come onto pit road, he's in and out of his pit box, and that gives the lead for the first time today to Riku Alatalo.
Yango, the first stop of the day, lap 19 it looks like. 9 seconds in and out of the box. A good stop for Young.
Indeed, now we'll keep an eye out to see where, when Alatalo comes in, not where, we'll know where he's coming in, of course, when Alatalo will come into pit road to make his one and only pit stop of the day. Keeping an eye out as well, Doug Leary is on pit road. Lamberton will keep an eye on him too when he comes into pit road as well. John Grogan is on pit road, so pit road getting a very busy place, and it looks as though that Borkenhagen just able to sneak past Mitch McCracken there as they work their way into turn number 2, and Borkenhagen got himself a nice run, able to go inside, and as was the case with Tim Dobb, McCracken trying to use turn 3 to his advantage, but eventually had to deal with that position, moved Borkenhagen up into 6th position.
Good drive from Borkenhagen, a very nice clean move there.
So, working away here at Sebring, round number 2 of the ILT Road Course Championship, round 4 of the 16th Street Racing League. Keep an eye on Riku Island Motor Park as they come down on the back straight away into the final corner. Will he pit this time by? The answer is yes, he does. He's on pit road. And keep an eye on Brian Simpson and Jason Dunphy on pit road as well, as is Jonathan Goat. But the key battle is Alatalo into his pit box. He's going to make this a fast one if he's going to have any chance of catching up to Young O. And he's into his box. He's getting 4 fresh tyres. He's going to top up that car with Sunoco Racecast down off the jacks. And he is going to be a long stop for him, actually. Away now, finally. Keep an eye on Young O. Young O breezes past, and a long stop there for Alatalo.
Yeah, he had a little bit. 8.5 in the box, but I think his entry and exit was a little slower. So I know about able to keep that gap ahead.
When we talk about pit road, always talk about the time itself. But we also need to make sure about the fact that, these drivers, they've got to get their entry, they've got to get their exit working, and that is always the important thing.
And this pit entry is very tricky because it comes off of that very fast right-hander. It's very bumpy, and you're trying to accelerate or just slightly decelerating through there, but you have to take it a little sharper. So if you're close to somebody, it can be very hairy for the guy behind if you're not expecting it.
Indeed, you've got to be careful. You've got to nailing that pit road entry, especially with the different the tarmac change. It's very difficult here, and it's one of the more difficult pit roads to get on and off of. Even though it looks very simple, these drivers also have to make sure that they don't cut across the racetrack until the exit of turn number 1. So it is still young OU race leaders working on lap number 20 of 37 here. He's got Riku Alataro behind him. That gap looks as though it's actually grown quite a bit now. Lamberton is still sat in the 3rd position. Just checking to see whether Lamberton's actually made his pit stop. He hasn't. So we expect him to drop back a couple of positions. Falkenhagen hasn't pitted. McCracken hasn't pitted. So it looks as though it will be Leary back up into that 3rd position once his pit stops are done, unless Lamberton can now charge over these next couple of laps.
Lamberton in a good position right now. We'll have to keep an eye and see what he does with this. But he's up into 3rd right now, and I think he's good to go for the rest of the race.
So having a look back through that field once again, having a look at Falkenhagen especially, because now he's past McCracken, he's been able to pull out about a 2-second gap over the 1 car. And McCracken, it looks as though he's very good at defending that position, but as soon as someone does finally get past, he does drop back quite a bit, and that car doesn't seem to want to handle well in dirty air here today. Having a look and see, actually, the only driver without a pit stop at the moment is Nefri Ag in the 04 car. He's now down onto pit road, so the cycle of pit stop is going to be complete for one moment there. Alk was classified with the 4th position. He's now down in his pit box. We expect him to come back out about the 13th position on the racetrack. We'll keep an eye out on him, as ahead of him, Kevin Kress coming out of pit road. Keeping an eye on Nefri Ag, see where he comes back out. Of course, Nefri Ag is your championship leader coming into this race, and he goes past those green cones now, building up the speed, and it looks as though he will come out ahead of Tony John, so he will fall back into the 11th position, about 12th position even, about 4 or 5 seconds behind Joe Branch's teammate.
Not a terrible stop. Again, just sort of holding place here. We'll have to wait and see what he's going to do. But again, racing his race, keeping it clean, not making any real silly mistakes.
And you see, once again, those drivers just having to not make mistakes. It's kind of the story of the day here today. We consider the fact that we still have 19 cars on the lead lap. We still have ourselves 28 cars running on the racetrack. Todd Bettenhausen, the last of the cars, Todd Bettenhausen even, who is circling on the racetrack down in the 28th position. Bettenhausen's having a difficult day here today. He sat in the 27th and 28th positions respectively, and they seem to be struggling at the moment, the Bettenhausen brothers, on the road course, especially when we consider Laguna Seca 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it was not very nice, not a very nice day for either of the Bettenhausen brothers at Laguna Seca, and it looks like it's turning out to be that kind of a day for them again. Just not hitting on all cylinders on these, and but it's still early in the season. I would certainly not count them out. And of course, again, they are very competitive on ovals. So if they can just try and improve a little bit on these road courses, they should be able to do pretty nicely.
So with 21, sorry, I take that back, 22 laps scored complete. We're going to go through the field. First of all, Young O in the 23 machine. He started his race, of course, from the 1st position. He's led pretty much all the way, except when these pit stops were going on. The gap between himself and Alataro, about 2.7 seconds on the racetrack at the moment. And Paul, he's had a dominant day here today, and he's just been managing that gap, not really pushing that car too much, but being able to get the speed when he needs to.
It appears that Young is just out there on the hot laps. He's definitely got a great setup. He understands the track, and the car is handling just wonderfully. It's really a joy to watch. Of course, Riku probably thinks differently watching that car becoming very small in front of him.
And I say it's kind of a reversal from Laguna Seca. Last time it was in the world of difficulties, the one who couldn't close up to the rear of Alatalo. This time it is Alatalo in the second position in that 25 car. Alatalo, I say, is about 2.7 seconds behind the race leader, but still a good drive for him, especially when you consider the fact he's now got a 30-second gap to Doug Leary in third. Putting Alatalo and Leary together, neither of those drivers have done anything wrong today. It just looks as though kind of like, O's faster than Alatalo and Alatalo is faster than Leary.
We saw this at Laguna Seca. Yang O and Rico Alatalo really seem to be in a class by themselves, and it's just going to be real tough each day on these road courses to catch these guys. Very accomplished, and But again, of course, Riku has stated that he's not going to be interested in driving. Oh, once we got some action on the track here, Pat Dobson now has moved himself up into, looks like, 6th position, having made a move on Gary Borkenhagen.
Yeah, and you saw that on your screens. Pat Dodson now 1 place away from that elusive top 5 and about 5 seconds behind Michael de Temple. Dodson, easy pass there on Borkenhagen, really. He's now got to about a 5-second gap. When you compare the lap times, he is doing 1 minute 44s. You compare that to the Temple ahead of him, also doing 1 minute 44s, but kind of struggling into the 1 minute 45s almost as well. So it looks as though that Pat Dodson really has got a chance of getting himself back up into the top 5. We'll talk about Matthew Lambertson very quickly. He's got himself about a 7-second gap over Michael de Temple, but is lapping slower than de Temple, who in turn is lapping slower than Dodson. So we can end up with a three-way battle for 4th, 5th and 6th if we're not careful.
Dodson, the man on the move, that's for sure. Very quick laps. I'm looking at the ticker here, and yeah, it does look like on average he is faster than Du Temple and Lambertson. So, given enough time, he may catch them, especially if those two make any mistakes.
And of course, Matthew Lambert's in his famous number 19 machine, driving for Nexus Esports. They hold him that 4th position pretty much into the start of the race. Moved up that position because, of course, Pat Dodson had to start this race from the rear of the field. Lambertson started the race in the 6th position, and now working his way in 4th, just putting a pass on Brad Sanford to put him a lap down. So De Temple in 5th in a 66 Slowpoke racing car, with Borkenhagen now down in the 7th position. And Borkenhagen in that 6th car. We talked about Dodson, so we'll move on to Borkenhagen. Borkenhagen, he's had a good drive. It took him some time to get past McCracken, but now he's passed. He's managing to kind of nail that gap, but hasn't got a response for Pat Dodson at the moment. Checking on his lap times, he's also slowing the Temple and Lambertson ahead of him. So is 7th the best we could perhaps ask from Borkenhagen today?
Very possible, but 7th certainly not a bad day for Borkenhagen. He certainly it'll be good for the points for him. We got a report from Race Control that 56 was in an accident.
Yeah, the 56 car is involved in an incident. He's down on pit road trying to get some repairs to his race car, just trying to figure out what happened to him. But it looks like it's a bit of a bad one there. And it was down into, trying to figure out what it was happening to him. But it was with Tim Dodd involved in that as well, by the look of it. And in fact, I take that back straight. It was Jonathan Goke. Both the cars running purple, of course. You think Tim Dodd, Jonathan Goke also runs a purple car. And it was down, and it just looks as though he rear-ended Jonathan Goke, and then got slammed into by Alatalo. So actually, Ricky Alatalo there might have some damage to his race car, and things just going wrong now for Alatalo in that 2nd position. And it looks as though it was a bit of a chain reaction there, because you had the 56 car, so Brian Katsky, trying to slow down to avoid running to the rear of Jonathan Goke. While that was all going on, Alatalo had nowhere really to put his race car. It's single file for the most part there. And as soon as that 56 car got spun around in the Coca-Cola Zero machine, Alatalo just had nowhere to go. Tried slamming on the brakes, nothing he could do, and just trying to assess what kind of damage Alatalo has. His ring is really torn up, but is still able to circulate on the racetrack, getting some pit road repairs, and he's got himself a new front wing back out onto the racetrack, but is now dramatically behind Young O, and in fact, I believe he might have actually lost the position to Doug Leary.
And actually now behind Mitch Kraken, it looks like for Young O.
Alatalo, you mean, of course. And Alatalo really did suffer there. And Alatalo, you talked about how things were going his way at Laguna Seca. He's just managed to make the pass there on McCracken to move him back up into the 7th position. But Anatalo, who's not got himself much time, he's got himself 12 laps at the line to get himself back into position in this race. He's now working down in the 8th position by the look of it, and the gap between himself at the moment, he's got himself a big gap, about 3 seconds to Borkenhagen, and realistically, when you put it into perspective now, he can only really get himself up to perhaps 4th position in Lambertson, and it's all gone wrong for Anatolo. And when you think about the big picture, Anatolo's only running in the ILT Road Course Championship. He needs points here today.
And it was, yeah, before we got distracted by other things, that was what I was saying, is between Yango and Alatalo has declared that he's only going to be running these road courses and not running the ovals. So in terms of the points race, this makes it very important, and looks like Sock Raider making a move on McCracken here, makes it very important that the 3rd through 5th position makes those finishing positions very important to these guys. So even though Alatalo is putting on a clinic every day, in the points race, it really is kind of less of a factor.
And all of a sudden, Matt Dodson is back into your top 5 in the 20 machine. He's still having to try to close down Margaret Temple in what is now the battle for the 4th position. And we'll keep an eye on that, because we could end up with a 3-way battle for 3rd, 4th and 5th, a 4-way battle if Alatalo can gain enough ground. Having a look at Alatalo's lap times, we'll get confirmation the next time he comes past the line. But he was lapping about a second lap faster than Borkenhagen and Dodson ahead and they're ahead of him. So that Borkenhagen, and we slow right down there because Kerry Battenhausen going wide at the hairpin, kind of spinning that car. He allows Alatalo to go past, but Alatalo now closed right up to the rear of Gary Borkenhagen, and I tell you what, Alatalo is probably going to make mincemeat of the 6th car in the next couple of corners. See, already looking down to the inside. Be careful, he will complete the pass on the outside there. Alatalo is having to charge and take every single corner, and Borkenhagen was just onside there. He didn't expect Alatalo to make the move there.
Alatalo driving very aggressively. I don't know if it's out of frustration or if he's just, but it does look like his car has taken a lot less damage than we thought. Replace that front wing and off he goes.
Yeah, I have to say, the fact he did slam onto the brakes, it did seem as though the front wing took the majority of the impact there for the 25 car of Riku Allen Motor Park. So it looks as though he's now into the 6th position. He's trying to close down Pat Dodson. Line, working his way to the final corner, and this is going to be interesting in that battle for 3rd, 4th, 5th and perhaps 6th position on the racetrack as well. Anderson is currently sat in that 3rd spot with the Temple, about 6 seconds behind him. Pat Dodson is a further 4 seconds back. In fact, Dodson lost himself a bit of time that last time by, but looking at the lap times, Anatello at 1 minute 43.645, Dodson at 1 minute 45.8, Temple at 1 minute 44.8, Lamberton at 1 minute 45.0. Someone needs to get their calculators out and see how long we've got. We've got, what, 10 laps left to go at the line. And Lamberton very slow there, trying to avoid Chris Cahoe, almost running into the rear of him. Does get side by side, but Lamberton will lose a second there. And that is not what he wants to happen when he's got, what, 3 now faster cars trying to close him down.
Lamberton, it has to be very careful driving here, but of course now that he's got... now that he's got KO between him and the other cars, now the other cars behind him have to deal with it. DeTemple and Dodson, and of course, you know, Riku is going to get into this mix real fast too.
So we'll keep an eye out on that battle as it kind of navigates itself around the racetrack. And say we are working now on lap number 28, so 10 laps left to go in this race. It is still Youngo, your race leader. The gap between himself and Doug Cleary is 41 seconds, but that does not show the story of this race. And say it was Youngo who led from the flag. He got himself about a 4-second gap as they came down onto pit road to make their first and only pit stop in this race, but then Anatalo was involved in an incident which dropped him back through the field, taking away his 2nd position. And it kind of looks unfair to Doug Leary, but he's been the driver to keep his nose clean in that 2nd position. Yes, he's 43 seconds behind the race leader, but at the end of the day, the only thing that people care about is those points. And right now, Leary is in charge to get himself a huge amount of points here.
Doug Leary in a great position. Certainly, as the Yango is not feeling any pressure from Leary, but as we had said at the start of the race, it's going to be O and Alatalo, and then the rest of the field. And again, Doug Leary, I'm really impressed with this driver. He's smooth every week. Oval, road course, doesn't matter. And of course, in the beginning, he had to race his way into us. And he's certainly putting on a statement that he belongs in the 16th Street and is going to make a real statement.
And when we look at the championship picture as well, I mean, Doug Leary was sat in 4th position coming into this race. We're talking about the overall championship here. And really, he's only got young O who'll be scoring more points ahead of him. The way it stands, O is going to be leading the championship, but Leary is going to be right up there in 2nd position by our watch. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that continues throughout the course of the season. We always talk about consistency in these long championships, and right now, Leary has got it all going his way. We'll try not to put the curse of the commentators on him. Has to take that back, by the way. It was Chris Manifold, not Chris Cahoe there, who at Lamberton almost ran over. And we've got a lot of cars kind of like, you know, a little bit of damage on the racetrack. And as, I mean, Laguna was very small racetrack, so these cars, you know, being lapped quite often. But here we've still got 15 cars on the lead lap. But these slower cars could still play a bit of a picture into this race. You saw how Alatalo was able to use that to his advantage when it came to passing Volkenhagen. Of course, he has now passed Pat Dodson, moving himself back up into the 5th position. The gap between himself and Michael de Temple was 4 seconds. Seeing how it is 5 seconds on the racetrack. Alatalo is just eating the Temple's lead. Last time by, 1 minute 42.9 for Alatalo. You compare that to a 1 minute 44.8 for Michael de Temple, just working his way through some slower traffic at the moment. De Temple is 4 seconds behind Lambertson, and Alatalo really is trying to replicate Pat Dodson there, just taking it to a whole new level. Alatalo's fastest lap of the race is a 1 minute 42.5, and when you consider all things considered, he is the 2nd fastest car on the racetrack. Young O, however, thinks, okay, Alatalo's going fast, yes, I might be a minute ahead of him. A couple of laps ago, he just set a 1 minute 42.2, which is good enough to put him on pole position for this race.
Yeah, it's definitely put the statement out, and he's continuing to do that now with the race pace he's setting. And Yang, even though he's got almost a half a lap on the rest of the field, not showing any signs of slowing down. We talked about this in the last road course in the interview about maintaining a very fast pace when you've got the race well in hand.
Sorry, I need to interrupt you. Alatalo crashed on the racetrack. By the look of it, Alatalo has crashed once again. Trying to get confirmation of exactly what happened to him, but it looked as though it was while he's trying to navigate himself around lap traffic, and it was, by the look of it, one of the Bettenhausens, Todd Bettenhausen, just trying to see exactly what happened. He just caught the side of Bettenhausen there. Bettenhausen's car spinning out of control. Trying to figure out exactly what damage that did to Alatalo. Looking inside that car is a little bit squiggly there as he's working his way through the S's. He might have himself some suspension damage. Still carrying on by that. Last time by, a 1 minute 45.7, and Alatalo's car now looking like it is severely crabbing, and it could be starting to come undone for Alatalo. And, you know, having to work very quickly through traffic is one thing, but you take, you know, too many risks, and that's what happens to you.
Well, and that took, I think that was Todd Bettenhausen in the number 46 car, totally by surprise. He was not expecting that at all, just driving his line. And Alatalo, again, I was talking before, it looks like he's driving frustrated and pushing a lot, and unfortunately, you start getting frustrated, you start making mistakes, and it just piles on. And yeah, that car has gone evil on Riku. It's definitely not driving straight.
You notice especially that car just wants to kind of fling itself to the left. It's okay in the right-handers. When he tries flicking it to the left hand, you see just there how it just wants to snap out on him, and that's going to really hurt him in the fast speed corners. I mean, thankfully, most of the corners here are right-handers, so he'll be saved a little bit. But as they come into this corner, I'm going to have to hold my breath here because it's going to be horrible to watch if he uses too much wheel. He's kind of starting to get used to it a little bit, but as he got his car spinning ahead of him, that was Carlos Panatella. Look at it, and the time I had to go very wide. I take that back. There's Terry Tinton there. How can you get those two cars in one kind of Red Bull car confused? That's beyond me. But we'll come back to that one later on. Having a look though, Nefri looking as though he's caught himself up slightly now to the rear of Joe Branch, and looking as though Nefri wants to try and get himself into the top 10.
Nefry racing for points. If he gets an opportunity to make some positions, he's going to have to take advantage of it. It's he can't just sit back on his laurels. He's back in 11th now, and it looks like there's a little bit of space between Branch now, but.
And when we talk about the idea of teams, we talk about the idea of people working together. Of course, Nefry and Joe, in fact, it looks like Nefry, I take that back, has got himself past Joe Branch there. Trying to figure out exactly what happened. And you talk about the idea of teams and people working together and that. But, you know, Joe Branch isn't going to roll over for a teammate just because he's, you know, faster or anything. It just looks actually there that Joe Branch got himself a bit wide at the fastest part of the racetrack, and Nefry was just able to breeze past. I didn't think actually that Joe expected Nefry to look down to the inside at that particular point. But how do you approach it as a team? You know, 3 or 4 guys working together. How do you approach it when it comes to race day itself and you're battling for position? Do you treat your teammates any differently to the drivers who, you know, you're direct competitors with?
Well, you ask any of these drivers in the teams, and they'll tell you that once you're on the racetrack, it's every man for himself, and it is. There may be later on in the season when the points picture becomes a little clearer, possibly. But for right now, it doesn't look like these guys are giving themselves each other any quarter at all. They are definitely very racy. So team orders, I don't think so. These guys, once they get in the car, are competitive enough. That goes all to the wayside, and it's time.
And of course, you know, talk about the likes of Panther Racing. You look back through their lineage and their history, they've never been one of those teams to say, move over for me, I'm faster. One of the teams who, almost like the McLaren of simulated IndyCar, they just have at it, boys. You know, whoever wins approach. And, you know, that can hurt teams in the long haul, but, you know, if they can come up with a clean conscience, that's kind of almost what's more important in some ways to certain people. Checking in back, however, on Young O in the race lead in the 23 car. And don't forget, actually, he is teammates with Adatalo. So, you know, you consider those two having great battles on the racetrack. They are actually, you know, teammates, but also fierce competitors. He's got himself now a 50-second gap over Doug Leary, working his way on lap number 33. You know what that means? We got ourselves 5 laps left to go in this race. That battle, Adatalo and DeTemple, it looks like Adatalo is struggling now, and he's fallen back into the clutches of Pat Dodson in the 20 car. Adatalo's last lap, a 1 minute 45.1. Pat Dodson's last lap time, a 1 minute 44.5. Could Pat Dodson be smelling a bit of blood here?
It's possible. It's definitely possible. Dodson, I don't know if Dodson's going to have enough time. The target he really wants to get to is DeTemple, but it doesn't look like that's going to be possible. But, you know, of course, we know Riku driving a wounded race car, but Riku in a wounded race car is just as fast as, well, me in a healthy race car, but it's very fast. He's very fast. Oh, there he goes off track. So,
oh, careful, and worst place possibly to have it as well. You're on a long straightaway, and, you know, that car gets off at that speed. You really got to be careful. He's losing so much speed. Dodson is past. And Borkenhagen is also very close now. The gap is about 1.5 seconds on the racetrack. So move Pat Dodson back up into the top 5. Move Alataro back down into the 6th position. Borkenhagen looking strong now. And Borkenhagen perhaps trying to gain himself some vital championship points. That battle, though, you know, is another battle developing on the racetrack, and that is between Mitch McCracken in the 1 car and Nefry Ag in the 04 machine. We haven't talked about McCracken for a while, ever since he fell behind David Sockrider, but we talked about how Joe Branch was always kind of thereabouts, trying to get into the picture. Nefry Ag, after his pit stops, he must have made some changes to that car, even though he got himself a big wiggle there as he came out of turn number 5. But Nefry, all of a sudden, is looking very strong, trying to take perhaps 9th place away from Mitch McCracken.
Nefry doing everything he can to pick up Mitch McCracken. Mitch McCracken been very driving a very measured pace, and of course he's been mixing it up with David Sockrider pretty much the entire race here. And every time he gets close to Sockrider, of course, again, very competitive driver. He's not going to give anything away, and so every time he tries it, he gets a little slowed down, and up comes Og.
I'll tell you what, Borkenhagen is struggling having a look at his last couple of corners, he's really been struggling in the slow corners. Perhaps he's overworked his tyres too much. David Stockrider right up now behind the rear of Gary Buckenhagen. He's lost himself 3 seconds in this last lap alone. Trying to figure out and see whether anything in particular has happened to him, but Stockrider right there with him. McCracken only about half a second behind, and Nefriag about a second further back. And these 4 drivers, you know, this could finish in any order possible. The last thing any of them want, though, is a 2, 3, 4 crash. Stockrider looking as though he's getting a good drive out of the final corner. It's looking as though it is Buckenhagen struggling to get the power down. Stockrider is close, but he's not going to be able to make a move into turn number 1 unless he's going to be the bravest guy on the racetrack we've seen all day here today. In fact, he does just fall back a little bit. But while this is all going on, you've got himself now a good drive coming out of turn number 1. Not going to make the move into turn number 2, but this is just backing Mitch McCracken back up into this pack. And you just saw how much Nefri gained there in a space of 3 corners as Buckenhagen is struggling with these overheated tyres.
And this is falling right in, rather into Ogg's hands. The longer that it takes to get by Buckenhagen, or the longer it takes Stockrider to get past Buckenhagen, the more advantage Nefri's going to have. So he's just hoping that Buckenhagen keeps that car 17 feet wide. And but yeah, something's gone wrong with Buckenhagen's car. I think he may have pushed it a little. I think you're right. I think he's pushed it a little too hard, and those tires are heating up, and it's just pushing all over the place.
And whilst that was all going on, it's giving a bit of get out of jail free card to Rico Adatalo. And Adatalo being able to get back under the 1 minute 45 as that previous lap, 1 minute 44.992 for him. He's able to put a gap now to Buckenhagen in that battle for the 6th position. But it is Buckenhagen in 7th, Stockrider in 8th, McCracken in 9th, Arg in 10th. John Grogan has been able to get around Joe Branch in the battle for the 12th position. But to take that back, it looks like Grogan is out of the race there. I'm trying to figure out what happened to him. But Grogan, after getting himself past Joe Branch, had a crash. And this is the 3rd driver we've seen do this today. Getting himself kind of onto the sand, out of that slow speed right-hander, just a little bit, and the car just snapped straight into the Armco. Grogan just throwing away an 11th place finish there.
And Will, going back, looking at Stockrider, he is all over Buckenhagen. Made a run for him on the backstretch, almost got him in the turn here, and looks like he's backing off a little bit in turn 1, but it's going to be a matter of time for Buckenhagen, and he's really having to play defense here.
Whilst this is all going on, Young O stretches gap up to 52.5 seconds. Just to let you know, still not slowing down at all. Young O, he knows how to go fast. He doesn't know how to go into cruise control. We saw that at Laguna Seca. He had to get right out of it. He didn't know how to just save a little bit of fuel there. Young O dominating here today, but Stockrider looking conservative. He's only got himself a couple of laps to get the job done. We are working. These guys are working on lap number 35 of 37, so 2.5 laps to go for David Stockrider to try and get himself past Young O. And it looks as though all of these 4 drivers at the moment always looking inside. They're just happy with the position, but Stockrider now looking down to the inside. They almost touch, and Stockrider. Wow. He finally makes a move, perhaps at the worst point of the racetrack, and he almost actually gets rear-ended by McCracken.
And Ogg, look at this. It's just what we said. Stack it up, and here we go.
Here we go, boys. I think they just heard me there. They know they've got themselves 2.5 laps to go. They've realised it is go time. One of these drivers can either gain a lot or lose a lot. And I think these drivers have got bored now, looking at the rear of the car in front. I think they've got all the trade secrets out of the way. Let's go racing, boys. Young O, as I say, he's still your race leader. He's got himself a lap and a couple of corners left to go. Working his way down the back straightaway is Young O. And I tell you what, he's not that far ahead of this battle. So, far behind of this battle. So Young O is going to see seeing this battle evolving ahead of him as he comes out of turn number 17. The white flag this time is in hand for Young O. Ahead of him, it is all going on. Buckenhagen has still got David Stockrider behind him. McCracken is still behind him. Nefriag is behind him. I'll tell you what, actually, McCracken getting a very slow drive out of turn number 1. Is Nefriag going to have a look down to the inside? Not this time. This is by far the best battle. 4-way battle for 7th, 8th, 9th and 10th positions on the racetrack. A lot of points at stake here. Of course, Nefri is championship leader. He won't want to throw big points away, but he is also wanting to try and pick up one of these guys if they make a little bit of a mistake. He's looking down to the inside there. Nowhere near close enough. Just trying to distract McCracken just a little bit. But it looks as though all of a sudden Buckenhagen's been able to pick up his pace just a little bit, and that might be what saved him. He lost 3 seconds on that lap, but he's back down into kind of like the mid 1 minute 45s. And in fact, he's setting some of the better laps of his race right now.
Yeah, car's getting lighter. He's certainly doing better, and well, you know, it's this is the time to do it.
And this is the time to do it. But Young O has got a beautiful picture of this battle enveloping ahead of him. They're going to have a lap to do it as O comes past the start-finish line. Young O, we talked about how dominant he can be. He, of course, was the 2011 iRacing.com IndyCar Premier Series winner. As you see there,
McCracken goes wide.
Yeah, McCracken goes wide and almost there gets run over by Young O. So move Nefri up into the 9th position. We talk about how it can go wrong. This is the last time when you want it to happen because you have no time left to respond. Young O is going to come out of the penultimate, the final corner now. He is going to claim victory here at Sebring. The 4th round of the 60 Street Racing League goes to Young O, doing the wiggles now. And I tell you what, McCracken will not be able to respond. McCracken will finish 10th because he got lapped there.
Yep, McCracken, his bid is over. It looks like Og is out of touch. But again, you never know.
Sorry, having a look at Alatalo. Alatalo there, looking as though he's found some speed again. He's trying to fight Dodson on this, the final lap as they come down into the hairpin. They've got a slow car ahead of them. This is Chris Manifold ahead of him. Dodson struggling to find a way past. Now he'll find a way past. Then he needs to try and find a way of getting Manifold ahead of Alatalo's coming to the corner. And indeed it looks, as say that Alatalo just breezes his way past. But this could have just given Dodson the one chance he needs to hold that 5th position.
Just slowed Rico down just enough that it might get Dodson enough space to make it happen. But Rico is hounding him like a dog. It's going to be interesting to see if Dodson makes any small mistake at all. Alatalo is going to be there to capitalize.
So we'll keep an eye on this battle. This, of course, is one further ahead on the racetrack. Alatalo has got himself now just one corner to try and make the move on Dodson. He's not going to be close enough unless he manages to find about 7/10 of a second in the final corner. But at Sebring, as we've proven today, anything can happen. Dodson working his way down the back straight away is Doug Leary. He's come home in the 2nd position. Matthew Lambertson in 3rd and Michael de Temple in 4th. Alatalo is close, but he's not going to be close enough. Pat Dodson will take 5th. Alatalo will take 6th. And I tell you what, Gary Borkenhagen very slow there. And Sockrider got past him. It looks as though that Borkenhagen actually could be out of fuel. I'm trying to figure out what's happened, but he's very slow there. He's really is slow, and it looks as though Nefri got past him as well.
Yeah, something wrong with his car. He's definitely very slow. I think he may have run out of gas.
And Nefri actually up into 7th position. I'm trying to figure out what happened. In all of that mess and confusion, Nefri and our timing is up into the 7th position. And how we found out what happened, it was down into turn number 11. Sockrider and Borkenhagen collecting each other. Sockrider looking down to the inside. The two of them hit. This is on the last lap of the race. And Borkenhagen going onto the grass. Sockrider onto the other side of the grass. And Nefri just splits him down the middle. Says thank you very much. I'll have those two positions. And Nefri who came into those last couple of laps in the 10th spot, finishes his race in 7th. And that shows you how you have to take every opportunity when you need it.
That's amazing. Amazing for Og. I mean, don't give up ever in this because you never know what's going to happen. And look, you know, that's exactly it. Just stick around and avoid the crashes and look what happens. That's an amazing finish.
So, let's take a breath. Before we run through the final race results, I'm going to have to ask you for your driver of the race and your hard charger of the race.
Well, driver of the race, got to give it to Young O. I mean, he's just another class. It's amazing to watch him work, and this is definitely his race to watch. And I would say the hard charger, without a doubt, Pat Dodson, unbelievable drive. Working up to 5th place through that whole race, just I can't say enough. It's just amazing.
Young O certainly dominated this race from the front, and you know that is always what you need to do. But I think, all things considered, I'm not sure whether to give it to Dodson or to Nefri. Now, the reason why I say this is because Dodson, of course, yes, he started this race from the rear of the field, but he made the penalty. He got the penalty through his qualifying error. So, in some ways, actually, does he deserve to be classified as a hard charger when he started 5th? Nefri started his race in 17th, ended up in the 7th position, 10 places from where he qualified. Good drive by him. I'm going to split the award between the two of them because I can't be bothered to choose. Anyway, final race results. Young O wins the race in a time of 1 hour, 4 minutes, and 7 seconds. Doug Leary, a full minute behind. Matthew Lambertson a further 10 seconds back in the 3rd position. Michael De Temple in 4th. Pat Dodson in 5th. Anatole say he couldn't get back into the top 5. He will come home in the 6th position. Nefri Ark in 7th. David Sockrider in 8th. Gary Balkenhagen in 9th. Mitch McCracken in the 10th position. Only 9 cars in the lead lap, but that doesn't tell the story of the day, as we had ourselves a further 10 cars scored 1 lap down, and a lot of that happened after pit stops. Mitchell Kraken, say, in the 10th position. Joe Branch, 11th. Terry Johnson, 12th. Eric Davis, 13th. Dave Judson, 14th. Jason Dunphy, 15th. Brian Simpson, 16th. Jonathan Goke, 17th. Chris Manifold, 18th. Carlos Malone Jr., 19th. And Tim Doyle, rounding out your top 20. Race results coming up on your screen momentarily. And very quickly, I want to take you back to that race start, Paul. And we always talk about Sebring, turn number 1, how difficult it can be. But I think, today these drivers snailed it perfectly. And that's what we need for an IndyCar race start.
Yeah, I agree. These guys, again, the race briefing, the first thing that was discussed was turn 1 and what to do. And by and large, it looks like all the way through the field, everyone was prepared. They knew exactly what was going on. And they were not willing to push the issue. And as such, everyone survived.
And also, we saw today, with the exception of the qualifying penalty for Dodson, not a single black flag here today, which after last week at Richmond and back at Laguna Seca, very inspiring news for these drivers as well. So very good clean racing. We did see a couple of drivers, struggling off pace, and some drivers, were able to complete passes due to traffic around them, but that's part of racing.
Yeah, well, lap traffic, always something you have to contend with. And it's and we saw it took Riku. It affected Riku, and it affects a lot of the race. It's again, how you manage lap traffic really dictates how your race is going to go. And Young did a really good job. Showed a lot of patience, and as such, won.
Indeed, I think that's one of the things we can take out. How you navigate traffic in this series is always going to be important. And Young did it perfectly. He is our race winner, and at this time, I'd like to welcome him into the Glacier TV booth. Young-O, congratulations. Not only did he set pole position, you won the race, and in fact, your fastest lap of the race would have actually given you pole position. Take us through your race.
It was surprising to me how fast Riku was in the race. I was expecting him to just fall back the first few laps, but he was right there, and I was being pretty conservative, to be honest, but still he was really, really fast, and really bad luck to him getting taken out by lap cars spinning. I think he might have had a chance to catch me there in the end, in the last stint.
And what's that rivalry like between yourself and Ricky? I mean, of course, you work together, you're both My3ID drivers, but it looks as though when we look at the ILT Road Course Championship, it is you two guys kind of going at it for the Road Course Championship. And of course, you're running on the oval side as well, but Ricky isn't.
I don't know if there's any rivalry. We're just trying to have fun on iRacing. I don't think there's any rivalry. Of course, we want to win, but when the other one does well, I think we're both happy for whoever comes out on top.
And the traffic today was a lot more manageable than Laguna Seca. Of course, Ricky lost out on that second position because of a car spinning ahead of him. But was traffic easier to navigate here today compared to at Laguna a couple of weeks back?
Well, some of the sections are just like Laguna Seca. It's narrow and left, right. And you can't really pick a line. So I think there was once or twice that I almost got taken out. But it was generally perhaps 1,000 million times better than Laguna Seca, so it was sort of a very relaxing experience in comparison.
and I have to ask you, how important was it to get pole position and a good start in this race? If Badatalo was able to get ahead of you, would it be a completely different story, or do you think you actually had the speed to take victory anyway?
It's much easier to control the race from the front. So no matter what race it is, it's great to start up front. So I knew how important it was, and getting disconnected when the qualifying session began, and didn't know when the internet would come back on. So luckily, with 2 minutes to go in the first group, I got back on and actually messed up my first run, but the second run was fast enough to get me pole.
Yeah, and I did notice that, it was your first lap was slow. Was that just a banker lap, or it did look as though you made a little bit of a mistake in the middle of the lap?
Yeah, and on the first lap, I just spun the tires going sideways. I thought we still have some time left, and then guess I messed up the second lap as well, so that was a little tense. But the second one was going perfect, so yeah, it was very satisfying this race.
And of course, 2 victories back to back. Next week we head over to Loudon for the New Hampshire 140. And I know Loudon is a track that you really do enjoy. Can you make it 3 in a row?
Maybe. I mean, Loudon has changed a lot from the last time I ran there. That was old time model. And you couldn't. I think I was the only one that was able to run the low line. And nowadays everyone's running that. So it's gonna be tough to pass because it's just one groove now. And but last time we tested there 1 week ago, me and Tim and Carlos and my teammates, they had a great race. So I'm looking forward to that.
And unfortunately, we haven't got anyone to speak Danish or anything to you. So would you like to say thank you to anyone?
Yeah, I want to say thanks to the internet company that fixed my internet in time. And also, of course, my teammates, Courtney and Carlos and Tim, and also Vince. And I hopefully he'll be back soon, running with us again.
Yeah, Vincent Shuto, if you're listening or watching, we miss you. Come back. We want to see you again. Congratulations, Shongo, winner 2 races back-to-back here in the 16th Street Racing League, taking victory in the 16th Street Racing League Grand Prix of Sebring. This time, we'd also like to welcome in my version of the Hard Charger Award, Mr. Nebriag. Hello again.
How you doing, Will? I keep fooling him.
You keep fooling him, and you took home, what was that, 3 positions in the last 4 laps? Take us through your race, because, you qualified a little bit further down the field. You managed to get your way back up, running 10th towards the end of the race, and it kind of all got bunched up in that battle for the 7th position.
Yeah, I tell you what, I was disappointed with the qualification. I had a good lap there going at the end. Unfortunately, Brian spun there and cost me probably my best lap. But, these races are, man. I just had to, really trying to keep it clean and get into a rhythm there at the start. And like you said, man, I was able to catch Joe and Mitch and them from about 5 seconds back. And, I threw it in on Joe there a little bit to get by him and already apologized. But, was able to get by Mitch, and then fortunately for me, Gary and Dave got into it there. And to be honest with you, when I crossed that finish line, saw I was in 7th place, couldn't believe my eyes.
And passing has been difficult here today. We've seen that drivers having to take a lot of laps to set up a pass, but how frustrating was it to kind of be stuck behind a driver and not really be able to do much?
Well, I mean, I tell you what, for me, it's part of this 16th Street Racing League. There are no gimmies here, Will. I mean, everybody's a challenge. Everybody that's in this league's a hell of a good driver. So, it doesn't matter if you're at this place or you're at Michigan International Speedway. Passing's going to be tough, but, I think you saw it, man. This Sebring track's tough, and you really, I feel like I was driving around this place with my hair on fire, to be honest with you. But, like I said, I think it's a testament to the drivers in this league as much as it is the racetrack and the way the car is set up. Because, like I said, there's no gimmies here. Anybody in this league can drive these race cars. And as I told you last week, I sure as hell just appreciate being a part of it.
And we had word from our spotters that, of course, you're a stand-up comedian, that you're actually just throwing some comedy things over the team radio. Was that in any way, shape, or form a driving factor in Sockrider and Borkenhagen coming together?
Why, heck, I don't know, man. I couldn't even see up that far. Like I said, I was just excited as I could be to get by Mitch. And you know how it is, Will. I mean, last lap, and I'm not going to get up there and pass Dave and Gary, not with one lap to do it. And you know, you just in the back of the head, you're kind of thinking, hey man, if you guys bang into each other, I ain't gonna complain too much. But you know, I do a little bit of stand-up comedy, and you know, I just try to keep it light. Everybody seems like a lot of these sim racers take themselves so darn seriously. I just like to, you know, I like to break it up a little bit, put a smile on everybody's face, because like I said, man, I just can't tell you how much fun it is to get out here and drive these cars.
And we're looking forward to the ways to gain 3 positions in the last 5 laps, and moving forward to New Hampshire next week. Of course, you've always been a king of the short tracks. Anything that you can do to challenge Young for the victory?
Well, I tell you what, I think short track's gonna be a different ball game. You know, like I said, I'm just here at these road courses, just trying to hang on and finish and get in the top 10. But you know, when you look at the team we got put together over here at National Guard Panther Racing, I mean, you know, guys like Niles Enders and Chris Cahoe and the Manifold boys, I mean, they know how to get around New Hampshire, and they got a history of doing it. So, you know, like I said, I'm really fortunate to be running with these guys. They're all such damn good race car drivers, and I just benefit, to be honest with you, from a lot of hard work they do. So, you know, I appreciate their effort.
10-4, well, say congratulations on your 7th place finish. Very quickly at this time, I would like to welcome in David Shotcliffe into the booth. And David, you did come home in the 8th position, but take us through that last lap very quickly. Anything that you could have done differently?
Not lock-up brakes, that probably was it. I'd seen that move before. I tried it a few times earlier and backed out of it, and I knew I could get them there, but I had a couple other spots where I had some troubles pulling on them, and so I decided last lap I'm going for it.
And unfortunately, our producer is saying that he has to go to sleep or something, so gonna make it very quick. You know, 8th place finish today, good top 10 result. Moving on to Loudon next week, a track that I know you're good, but you looking forward to it?
Oh yeah, look forward to every one of these. Fun running. Happy to finish them.
10-4, David Shotcliffe home in the 8th position. Paul, next week we do go to Loudon, New Hampshire Motor Speedway, one of the most difficult tracks in the world when you put an Indy car on it. We're hoping for no willpower birds, of course, but it's going to be a tough race next week.
It's really going to be very interesting to watch. Again, short track racing, always very exciting, always very fast paced, and these cars are, of course, very insane on these short tracks, as we saw at Richmond. Yeah, and as Nevery was saying, it is going to be a different ball game. It's got these. This is going to be a track where you're going to see the Panther guys being very fast, and so we'll wait to see what happens here. And I think we're in for a real good show next week.
And that, unfortunately, does conclude our broadcast of the 16th Street Racing League Grand Prix of Sebring, brought to you by International Light Technologies. Don't forget, we've got plenty of action on Glacier TV this weekend, including the 3rd round of the iRacing.com Pro Series of Road Racing. We've also got the Blondie MX5 World Tour and, of course, round number 7 and 8 of the Pro Twice $1,000 Cup. For more information, go to glaciertv.com. In the meantime, from myself and Paul Jenkins, a very good evening to you. Bye-bye!